Free agency just set our world and your world on fire. Kenneth Walker, the first one off the board to the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, anytime you have a running back going from a Super Bowl winning contender to another contender where he could be highly productive, it's a huge deal in Dynasty Fantasy Football, right? And with Kenneth Walker, I think the thing that has been capping his ceiling in some people's eyes for the last couple of years is the fact that he's been splitting that backfield in Seattle with Zach Charbonnet. And now, Kenneth Walker, who I think has a lot of questions, does go to Kansas City, and the deal is significant as well. It's a 3-year deal worth up to $45 million. $29 million of that is guaranteed money. And so it's a big deal. $15 million a year for Kenneth Walker. He honestly earned that deal in the playoffs, in my opinion. The Chiefs go out and they get their running back. One, obviously last year the Chiefs did not have a running back to average over 4 yards per carry out of their whole entire backfield. You had Kareem Hunt. It was basically like third and Kareem Hunt because they gave him the ball every time on third down and he was able to pick it up every single time. And then Isaiah Pacheco, who literally like flails his entire body when he runs. And so now you bring in Kenneth Walker. It's the best running back that they've had there since probably Kareem Hunt 1.0, right? Like, I mean,
Yeah.
so not the last Kareem Hunt, the first time. Probably the best running back they've had in Kansas City since then. I don't really, in terms of Patrick Mahomes playing with an elite running back, like this is going to be something we haven't seen in a while. And so I think it's a good landing spot for him. Obviously in terms of offensive line play, it's fine. And so he's going to do well there, I think. I think in terms of his receiving upside, we do still have questions. His goal line usage, I think we still have questions. He didn't have that in Seattle. It is very Kansas City Chiefs of them to go and have multiple backs that they use in multiple different scenarios. You've seen this throughout the years where they use like Jerick McKinnon in the passing games. They even, used Brashard Smith some of the passing game last year. Obviously, Kareem Hunt was the short yardage guy. So do they use Kenneth Walker for an every down role in Kansas City? I think if you're paying him $15 million a year here, I would expect Kenneth Walker to get a lot of the carries here in this offense, including the goal line carries, which is good for his stock. And so I don't know what you think about the landing spot of the fit, but I do think it will allow him to potentially move into a role where he is going to, he's going to have almost every valuable touch there, at least to begin. They don't have anybody else that I think is going to super compete with him. Again, it is very Chiefs. It is very Andy Reid to have multiple guys there doing a lot of different things. But to pay this much to Kenneth Walker after it was rumored they were trying to trade for Breece Hall at the trade deadline, I think they were pretty serious about getting a good running back on this roster. Now that they have one, I think they're going to give him most of the valuable touches. I think it's a good landing spot for Kenneth Walker. Obviously, it's the Chiefs, so everybody looks at it. I mean, the Chiefs didn't make the playoffs last year. I think the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs next year, but it's just not like, people have always looked at the Chiefs as this like dream number one landing spot in the entire NFL. And fact of the matter is, it's probably not that. Kenneth Walker just came from one of the top offenses in the NFL already, a Super Bowl winning offense. But it is good for Kenneth Walker. In terms of his value right now, I can already tell you I updated my Dynasty rankings, and I really didn't move Kenneth Walker up that much. I still have him in a tier with Saquon. Like, I'm looking at Saquon and Kenneth Walker both on their second deals now and both on good offenses and in decent situations, and I just like Saquon more still. So I have him, I have them back to back. Guys like Kyren Williams, I would take him probably over Kyren at the moment, especially with the Chiefs landing spot. Really, like, the guys you're starting to have a discussion about are Christian McCaffrey. Are you taking Christian McCaffrey or Kenneth Walker in Dynasty now?
Probably Walker just for duration's sake.
Okay.
CMC's already going, 6th round, which is right around where Walker was going.
It depends on the draft. What about Travion?
Travion.
What about Chase Brown?
Well, we've been waiting on a Chase Brown extension, and once it happens, I don't know. I think I don't like either of them. Probably Walker.
So
I think I would give the upper hand to Walker.
Okay, so it's very interesting because like in my rankings, I don't know how to rank Brown, Henderson, McCaffrey, Barkley, and
those
Walker.
guys are all in a tier for me.
Okay, so maybe I've just got my tiers in the wrong spot. Either way, I think you could put him as high as like the running back 12 in Dynasty and as low as the running back like 15 in Dynasty. And so where he settles in my rankings, I still have yet to decide. I have him there with Saquon and Christian McCaffrey. I think Travion Henderson, Chase Brown, Quinshon Judkins, Breece Hall. Like, honestly, that just seems like a ginormous tier to me. And so in terms of his categories, his category for our three factors bucketing, he stays in the mainstay category. And I don't know, you have the mainstay definition off the top of your head here. We'll put these up on the screen as we go. But basically remains in the same category. He was a mainstay before. He's somebody that is going to score you fantasy points. He's somebody that obviously is locked in now to a situation where he's going to be relevant for multiple years, but not somebody that you're building your team around. He's on his second deal. And so I think that when you're looking at what he was versus what he is, we're looking at him very similarly. The situation I think people are going to say is a huge, ginormous upgrade, and it's probably just maybe a small upgrade in terms of he might get more volume there. But in terms of his dynasty value, it's going to skyrocket. And look out, because it could be a pretty big sell window on Kenneth Walker if his dynasty value gets too high. Obviously, right now, we're going to wait and see what his market value ends up being. But for Kenneth Walker, I mean, one of the best free agents this year, from a dynasty perspective, you probably couldn't have asked for any better of a landing spot, any bigger of a splash from free agency to start. And Kenneth Walker, the Chiefs, to open things up was incredible. It's obviously stock up for Kenneth Walker. It's just going to be a matter of where his price settles to see what we actually want to do with him once we get down the road in dynasty fantasy football.
Yeah, and then the next guy that we had go off the board was Travis Etienne, who there was a lot of suspicion on whether he was actually going to stay in Jacksonville or not. I know we kind of went back and forth on whether we thought he was going to stay or go this offseason. Avery thought he was going to stay. I didn't know. I was on the fence. I have no idea. And I would not have predicted that he was going to go to New Orleans. When I saw that he signed with New Orleans, I was like, huh. But apparently he wanted to go there because, again, that's kind of his home. So 4 years, $52 million. That's pretty dang nice. And again, you want to take all these deals with a grain of salt because a lot of these contracts and the guarantees and the outs, those details aren't really revealed until, a couple days after the announcement is made. But at face value in this situation, in an offense that, again, I've kind of been saying this and trying to scream it, this offense is underrated from a fantasy perspective and what it can provide for all of the top options there, for Shuck, for Olave, for whatever wide receiver they bring in there via the draft or free agency, and Travis Etienne now at the running back position. So I think for Etienne, instead of constantly worrying about a running back in Jacksonville kind of breathing down his neck, which was Tootin last season, now it's pretty much exclusively his room. I don't think anyone thinks that Alvin Kamara is really going to eat in to this workload much as he's kind of phased out. Alvin Kamara lost a step last year, and it was very, very notable. So from a dynasty perspective with his ranking, looking at where I had Etienne previously, I had him in the same tier as Jacobs, Scadaboo, and I had him at running back 20 ahead of Harvey and Derrick Henry. With this new extension, him being fresh, quite a bit younger than Jacobs, I put him over Jacobs. I would probably take him over Scadaboo as well. I've got him in that tier with Kyron, Javonte, Chase Brown, and Travis Etienne. And then Walker, I have it running back 14 right now, 13. So I don't know where do you have Etienne?
Again, behind that tier of Kenneth Walker with Kyron Williams, Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, and ahead of Scadaboo and Josh Jacobs. So I have him right at like 17, 18.
Yeah, I think you got to give him the nod even over Scadaboo because there are still some questions looming there. You 100%. Could also see the Giants selecting Jeremiah Love in the draft. That's always a possibility. They're in a position to do that. So with that question alone and the guarantees that you have for Etienne, we'll give him a mid running back 2 status. I think this is a good situation for him to be solidly productive. Again, you know at the shortcomings of Etienne, he's not like the most consistently efficient runner. He does have some receiving ability, which is good. And again, the money talks a lot, and that makes him a mainstay. One of the biggest questions we have with Etienne heading into this offseason is what was the contract duration going to be? Because with Walker, we kind of just knew. We had a really good idea. And with Etienne, 4 years was best case scenario for me. And now this could be, again, the details could come out. There could be a second year out. There could be a third year out. But the fact that it's this quantity of money that's even in the conversation really makes him what was previously a short-term production, conservative short-term production category label to now he's a certified mainstay. He's going to be relevant in this range for quite a while just because of the money that we're talking about here at the running back position.
All right, and then we're going to Wandale Robinson to Tennessee. This is a big one. Honestly, I think a lot of people saw this one coming. Obviously, you've got Brian Daboll as the offensive coordinator there in Tennessee, and Wandale Robinson drafted by and played for Brian Daboll, and goes to a situation where there aren't a lot of weapons there in Tennessee. And so Wandale is going to be somewhat of, in my opinion, a security blanket for Cam Ward. In an offense where, Alec Eilman, I think, led that team in targets last year, there really isn't any competition, in my opinion. Look, Jim DK is a special teams guy, in my opinion.
Is Ridley still
role.
There technically? He doesn't mean anything.
Ridley
but
is technically still there, I think. I think. I'd have to fact check it. He's not relevant if he is.
Yeah.
And, again, Alec, I think Alec is fine, but I think Wandale Robinson is a big upgrade in terms of, which isn't saying much. Like, I don't know. Like, Wandale got a pretty big contract, to be honest with you. It was a 4-year, $78 million deal. And it was $38 million guaranteed. So you're talking, almost
that's a big gap.
almost $20 million a year here. For Wandale Robinson, which, that's about what veteran Mike Evans got as well. So I think that's probably good value for Wandale, and he goes, again, to a room where this is the target merchant. This is the guy in PPR leagues that's been a cheat code, and he goes to the Titans, where there's nobody else to get targets there. We might see more of the same with Wandale Robinson. Now, I think they're going to need a lot of help. Obviously, Tennessee has a top 5 pick. Are they going to take Jeremiah Love? Are they going to take potentially a Carnell Tate? I think both of those guys are here. I think they're very in play to take another offensive weapon sometime in the draft, and then obviously that would set their offense up much better long term. Of course, there's also a bunch of defensive guys sitting right there staring them in the face, and a defense with the Titans where they really should be taking defensive shots if they can. However, Wandale goes to a wide open wide receiver room, and I was looking at how we were going to rank Wandale here after this move, and I do think he's somebody that, if you flex him last year, you felt decent about it. And so when I'm talking about where I'm ranking him, I'm going to rank him in this big tier of guys with like Devontae Adams, Jordan Addison, Michael Wilson, Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore. And then I probably, after the news today, I think you're probably moving Mike Evans pretty close to that tier now. In fact, I probably would put Mike Evans in that tier with those guys as well. Behind the tier of guys of like Brown, Waddle, Jamison Williams, and Devontae Smith as well.
Yeah, that's essentially that kind of middle range where you've got a collection of like super low-end mainstays like Addison. You've got some short-term league winners in Adams and Evans. You've got some productive vets. You've got some serviceable guys. You have some upside shots. It's just a mix of like a lot of unknowns in that range outside of the productive short-term league winner guys.
So would you rather Wandale Robinson or Michael Wilson?
Probably Wandale.
Okay.
I feel a little more comfortable about the production that I think I'm going to get consistently from Wandale, just because of the way that he's been utilized in a Brian Dable offense historically. So,
what about Wandale Robinson or Jordan Addison?
Addison by far.
What about Wandale or Alec Pierce?
Alec Pierce by far. The money is a lot there.
What about
there's a big money gap.
What about Wandale or Michael Pittman?
Probably Wandale.
Wandale or DJ Moore?
DJ Moore's a bill. DJ Moore for market value alone. People like that more than they will.
And then last one's here. Wandale or Mike Evans, who we'll talk about.
That kind of depends on build. I'll give the nod to Wandale.
Okay. So, again, I think I've got him in the right tier of guys here. Just those guys that are, veterans / wide receiver ones on their team that have a lot of questions, and that's kind of what that tier is. In terms of Wandale, though, he is in terms of his player category, he's been serviceable for a long time. Nathan is going to put him in upside shot, and so really looking at that as like if you're buying into Wandale, we don't know what his production ceiling is on the Titans because
we also don't know who they're going to sign or draft.
Exactly.
Right?
And we also don't know what Cam Ward's going to look like next year.
Right.
At the end of the day, though, Wandale, it's good money for him. If you invested in him in Dynasty, if you already have him on your team, it's pretty solid, honestly. Yep. It's a pretty solid situation for you. So with all this movement going on, our Dynasty teams are literally changing all the time right now. Nathan and I review all of these Dynasty teams when we do our team blueprints personally. We can take a look at your Dynasty team, tell you which guys after free agency you should be buying or selling, depending on what your team build is, give you your 2-year outlook, give you your team archetype and your roster archetype. Then we can also get you everything on the site. We can get you in the Discord community. You can get in a league if you'd like to. Leagues are going to be super fun now that we have these new free agent landing spots, so we can get you in a league as well. But if you come and become a member with code DOMAIN annual Mother Flocker tier, we can take a look at your team as well. Obviously, we're going to be changing our own Dynasty teams around a lot after free agency. And so flockfantasy.com/domain. Check out the link in the pinned comment if you'd like to get a team review from Nate and I as we get pretty hot and heavy into this offseason. This has been a really fun free agency market, and our own team re-signs, really the only guy here that has re-signed, like a notable guy that has re-signed, and it's Alec Pierce off the board for 4 years, $114 million.
Thank goodness that Alec Pierce didn't sign with New England, because there was a lot of smoke there, and apparently New England offered him $150 million, which is crazy.
That there's no way that's true.
That would have shocked. That would have been like
5 years, $150 million.
Yeah, something like that.
30. Okay, so that's about the same. Because it was rumored that he took less money, which, by the way, I will just put this disclaimer out here. Nathan and I, if you've listened to us ever, you know that we are the biggest Chris Ballard critics of all time. But I think the people who are crapping on this deal have not watched the Colts play, have not watched Alec Pierce play, and also don't realize the effect that the cap going up so much this year is going to have on this contract.
Yes.
This contract, yes, if the cap were the same as it was, I agree, you're probably overpaying by a pretty large margin for Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
But the cap going to where it is going, not only this year with a huge jump, but where it's going to continue to go, Alec Pierce is going to settle in like the 20s, like maybe probably the low 20s in terms of, because right now he's like 11th, and so everybody's throwing out here's who the guys who got the same amount of money. The money's different now, guys, and it's just like it is with inflation in the real economy. In the NFL economy, when the cap goes up, a deal like this, that is the first big deal we've seen since the cap has gone up, it doesn't necessarily equate to what was happening before with wide receiver deals. I'm critical of Chris Ballard. I think he should have been fired a long time ago. But anybody who's looking at this and like, Alec Pierce only has 100 catches, I'm telling you, you actually got to watch the games. He was on pace for 1,300 yards when Daniel Jones was healthy. He clearly was the best wide receiver on that Colts team. And again, I'm one to literally crap on Chris Ballard on my show all the time. This is not a bad signing. And I think for a dynasty perspective, it's I mean, with the Pittman move kind of combined with it, it's pretty decent for his value.
Yeah, with the money that's guaranteed here, the quantity on an annual basis, which again, I'm looking at this probably meaning that 3 of those 4 years are pretty much guaranteed for Pierce to be with Indy. Pierce is a mainstay. With Pittman now leaving Indianapolis, going to Pittsburgh, and with the massive jump in production that you saw from Pierce and his utilization across the board, his versatility as a route runner, he's still favored posts and go routes and out routes and things like that on the outside. He still worked the intermediate part of the field a lot more than we've ever seen. And that's going to continue and maybe even be amped up next season as, again, Pittman is out of the picture now in Indy. It's now Alec Pierce, wide receiver 1, and then a mix of Josh Downs and Tyler Warren. With this contract and with this situation, which was really positive for Pierce last season in what was already a crowded offense, and now you have less crowdedness to worry about, and you have the money, this, again, makes Alec Pierce a very, very safe investment. He was one of the better investments before he got this contract, whether it was with the Colts or somebody else in the offseason. I'm like throwing a party right now because the draft that we just did, the real money draft that we only do like one a year, every single offseason in a domain league, I got Pierce in like the 11th round, and I already got a 3-round value jump from that selection, the 3-round value win. So with our ranking of Alec Pierce at the moment, Avery just said, he was just talking about like Wandale versus Pierce. I'd much rather take Pierce because there's a lot more guaranteed money there, almost more than twice the amount of guaranteed return with where he's at against like Addison, Adams, DJ Moore. I'd probably take Pierce over DJ Moore. I would probably have Pierce back to back with Jordan Addison. So I have him at wide receiver 29, back-to-back with Addison, back-to-back with Devontae Adams, still below your guys like Jalen Waddle, Jameson Williams, Devonta Smith. I think we need to see multiple years of this level of production from Pierce. And really, I mean, he hasn't eclipsed 1,000 receiving yards. I don't think he did it this year, did he?
He did, I think.
He just got over it. 1,000. So 1,003 receiving yards this year, 6 receiving touchdowns, 21 yards per reception, but only 84 targets. This is the most amount of targets that he's ever gotten in the Colts offense at 84. But again, he's getting this much money. I would expect that target volume to go up noticeably with the amount of vacated targets that you're going to see from Pittman. They're not going to draft a super notable wide receiver this year. 111 targets the last 2 years from Pittman. That's a lot of volume to go around. I do think that we can see Pierce see a target volume jump that's going to be very notable for how efficient he is on a per reception basis. You could see him get up to, I think, probably that 100 to 110 target range, which leaves him as, I think, a low-end wide receiver too pretty consistently.
Yeah, so it's stock up for Alec Pierce. It's a pretty good deal for him, honestly. He was the hottest wide receiver free agent name this year. It ended up being, and he had a good year, and I think he deserves it. And so, again, I think people that are crapping on that signing, like it's the worst wide receiver contract we've ever seen, like, come on, man. I hate my own team. I hate my own GM.
Also, would you have said that if the Patriots had signed him?
No, nobody be saying that.
Would you have said that if the Niners had signed him?
Nobody be saying that.
Because all of them were in on
Raiders,
at this price.
Chargers, all in on
all of them were
in
at this price. And by the way, Pierce took less to stay in Indy. Boom. So he could have taken
You know why? Because Indy's awesome, guys.
It's so mediocre.
It's awesome.
So
we love it. We do like Indianapolis, by the way. It's very cheap to live here. All right, Mike Evans, 49ers. This is a big one, man. And honestly, I think the thing we kind of have to lead with here in terms of our categories goes from short-term production guy for us to a short-term league winner. And I think the main thing for Mike Evans here is that he got a 3-year deal. It's average of $20 million a year, which I think is pretty reasonable for a guy like Mike Evans. But goes to the 49ers. Now, I hate to be the bearer of bad news on this one. But what do you guys think the plan for old Ricky Sticky is? Sticky Rickly Pickly. What do you think the deal is for Ricky Pearsall here? Because Ricky only played 17% of his snaps out of the slot. Okay, so what? I mean, I have no doubt he's still going to get on the field, but I don't think Mike Evans helps Ricky Pearsall that much. It's just a gut feeling here. I don't think he's going to help Ricky Pearsall that much. Not to mention you're going to have Kittle back probably by the first month of the season. You've got Christian McCaffrey still there, who is a wide receiver. Juwan Jennings obviously going to be gone. That would help Sticky Ricky as well. But at the same time, Mike Evans is going to be the one there. And so he goes to a short-term league winner. From short-term production to short-term league winner. We only had 3 short-term league winners before this video. That was Devontae Adams, Derrick Henry, and Christian McCaffrey. Welcome to the club, Mike Evans. Mike Evans, this is, in my opinion, a classic example of a wide receiver who's still got some left in the tank, similar to Devontae Adams, who really doesn't have a ton of dynasty value. It's going to a situation where he's going to absolutely cook. Mike Evans is going to cook in San Francisco. He will eat. There is a small asterisk there, and the asterisk is if he stays healthy. That's a big thing for Mike Evans. And who knows, the power plant in San Francisco might be coming for Mikey's hamstrings. I'm just guessing based on what I've seen with Christian McCaffrey, with George Kittle, with even Brock Purdy, but with all of their defensive guys as well. Like, that electrical substation is chomping at the bit to get Mike Evans' hamstrings down there in the Bay Area. And so that's really the only concern I have there, because I think if he stays healthy, I think Mike Evans has still got some. I think he's got enough left to where he's going to be very fantasy productive there. It reminds me a lot of the Devontae Adams situation. The only huge difference is Devontae Adams was not near as injury prone as Mike Evans is at this portion of his career. And so with that, though, I'm pumped about Mike Evans. Obviously, I moved him from the 40s up in my rankings to like the probably the high 30s, I think, is where he's going to land. I've got him, right there in that big tier. It's a big tier. We're talking about all these free agent guys with Adams, Addison, Pierce, Wandale, Michael Wilson, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, and Mike Evans. Subject to change. I'm obviously currently updating my rankings, but that's about where I think you have to have him, is in the high 30s for Dynasty Fantasy Football, because he is like similar to DJ Moore. They're both veteran guys. They're both going to new situations, and in my opinion, better situations. Like, I loved the Bucs for Mike Evans, but Egbuka and Godwin, I mean, they're not nothing. And also, like, I just think that this going to a new team, I think that the 49ers are going to be very intentional about getting Mike Evans the ball, truthfully. And so with that, I like this for Mike Evans a lot. I think he's going to be a short-term league winner in Dynasty, and I will buy. If his price doesn't go up too much, which I don't know if it will or not, we have no way to know where these prices are going to settle for all of these free agencies, I will buy on Mike Evans, and I think it's probably going to be a good move for him. So shout out Mike Evans going to the San Francisco 49ers.
Are you worried that they're going to draft another wide receiver in the first round?
No. Well, I mean, even if they do, they're going to draft a Cooper or a Concepcion. Almost
right. Those will be the 2 guys that are available.
No, I would not. In fact, I'd be a little bit more worried for those guys now that Mike Evans is there than I am Mike Evans taking. Like,
if anything, I'm worried for Pearsall. Evans isn't going to be impacted whatsoever.
Which
Evans does what Evans always does, which is just downfield, contested catch,
red zone, touchdown merchant. This is a competition between Pearsall and whoever else they bring in, which Pearsall will not win. But again, I would be much more worried about Pearsall if I actually had any shares to be worried about. I just will leave it at that. And so, in terms, and a lot of people are going to say Pearsall and Evans can still be productive. True, that is 100% possible. I'm partially I'm just being a hater here, but I do think a lot of people thought Ricky Pearsall was going to be the bona fide number 1 wide receiver there in San Francisco. I don't think that's happening. I think Mike Evans is the wide receiver 1 there for the last couple of years of his career. That's my opinion.
So Malik Willis gets his long-term contract, and it's with Miami. You obviously got the connections there with their new head coach, who's the DC for Green Bay the last couple of years. He's been, around Malik Willis for a while. So Willis gets his 3-year, $67.5 million deal. $45 million of that is guaranteed. So again, before we even know the year-by-year details there, when you look at those guarantees, you're probably guessing this is really a 2-year contract with an out after that season. And again, this breaks down annually is like just over $20 million a year. So this is a little bit lower than what we expected for Willis. Avery and I expected around $20-ish million because that's about what Fields got paid last year, and he had a lot more question marks and haters than Malik Willis does in his potential upside. But with Willis getting, not $30 million, some people might be disappointed by that. Look, he's still going to be the quarterback for Miami at least this season. And depending on how it goes, maybe next year. Again, if they end up sucking and they end up with a top pick next year, they're probably going to take a shot on a quarterback and he'll end up being their backup. But this is not really going to change my outlook for Malik Willis. Again, I was kind of already baking into Malik Willis's dynasty price what he was going to be, and that was a starting quarterback in 2026. Now, that doesn't mean that his market value isn't going to jump up quite a bit. I mean, we've seen Willis go off the board in the 11th, 12th round, and he'll be a guy. He'll be a guy that's firmly in that not quite Bryce Young range, but he'll be a 9th round shot that a lot of people take in dynasty startup. So he'll gain a few rounds at least. As far as his category analysis goes, we're really not moving him a category. He goes from an upside shot to an upside shot still. He's got a lot to prove. $20 million for a quarterback in this market with how much the cap has gone up is not anything to write home about. It really is lowest end starting quarterback money, bridge quarterback money, with the potential to maybe be a long-term option if he does perform. So when I'm looking at my rankings with Willis, I have him pretty much right there, ahead of Michael Penix, ahead of Tua, ahead of Shador, ahead of J.J. McCarthy, ahead of Anthony Richardson. I already had him ahead of these guys. I have him behind Daniel Jones, who will get double the pay that Malik Willis is getting. I have him behind Matthew Stafford, who can win you a league. And I have him behind guys like Young and Shuck, who I think have a little bit longer leashes than Malik Willis does in this situation. So that really ends up landing him at QB 26, which again is very respectable, very fair for a guy who has gone from backup, or initially had, top 5 draft capital hype in 2022 and ended up being a 3rd round pick. This is, the rise and fall and rise again, and maybe fall, but maybe not, of Malik Willis's potential as a quarterback in the NFL. So I'm rooting for him as a fan of someone who I thought had, some upside, and obviously he's got rushing capability as well. He could be fun to watch in Miami, and we'll see what happens. But again, I'm not going to be putting all my chips in and saying everybody has to take a shot on Willis.
Yeah, Tyler Allgeier was a big free agent guy in dynasty circles, especially. We were screaming, hey, go buy this dude. He's going to go somewhere. He's going to be potentially a starting running back. And I think that potentially is just that. I think it's potential that I think it's a potential situation where he could potentially be the starting back there. It's no guarantee going to Arizona. Obviously, you got James Conner coming back off the injury. They still could draft somebody. You have Trey Benson there. Obviously, new coaching staff there. And LaFleur, obviously, going and getting Tyler Allgeier makes me feel a little bit better because he is now the only running back that he actually has his fingerprints on. And so that makes me think that Tyler Allgeier is going to have a very significant role there. He had a significant role in Atlanta. It was just behind Bijan vulturing all the goal line touchdowns. And people are saying, oh, well, now no goal line touchdown vulturing for Bijan. They're going to bring somebody else in. We're never going to learn our lesson here. It's not Bijan's not getting 100% of the snaps. Anyways, in Arizona, as long as they don't draft anybody there, Tyler Allgeier could be the starter there. And he gets $6 million a year. And I'm not going to lie to you.
That's pretty underwhelming.
I thought he was going to get more than that. I thought he was going to get 8. I was thinking 8 or 9. And 6...
I guess Javonte should have been our indicator there, that it was going to be a little.
Yeah,
bit
but we
less,
just thought Javonte was low. But Javonte actually wasn't
true.
low. I think the running back market in general has cooled off quite a bit, with the exception of course, the top 2 guys we talked about, Walker and Etienne. Those are decent deals for them. What's the franchise tag amount for running backs this year? I'm curious. That tells us a little bit too. Regardless. Tyler Allgeier to Arizona, I think it's a good landing spot for him. Obviously, that offense, with Trey McBride, with Marvin Harrison Jr., and then you've got probably Jacoby Brissett as the quarterback there. We have been guessing. What's the franchise tag this year?
$14 million.
Okay, so that's a pretty good, indicator of what top running back contracts are in the NFL. And
so Brees, Walker, Etienne.
Exactly, and so Tyler Allgeier is well below that. Less than half below that, and so. I do think the landing spot, though, going to Arizona where there's really not like a dominant running back, one starting running back there, and the job's wide open, I think is a good situation for Allgeier. I think you'll see a small market value bump for him. In terms of our category analysis, we're going to have him stay in the upside shot category. Like, nothing really changed here. Yeah. If he can solidify himself as a starter and be really productive, which is very possible because
he's
he's
a productive vet or even a mainstay.
Exactly. So. And so we'll adjust to that. But I think for right now, like he got a little bit less of a deal than we were thinking. However, Nathan's right. Javonte probably should have been the indication us that he wasn't going to get a huge deal. It is a decent situation and a decent landing spot for Tyler Allgeier, and we do like that. In terms of where I'm ranking him right now in Dynasty, I actually haven't even moved him up yet, so I'll just do it right now as I'm talking. I had him at 24 already. I had him right there with Swifty. The guys I have behind him are Monungai, Warren, Charbonnet, Montgomery. Obviously, Tootin is going to be jumping up there as long as they don't. I think they're going to sign Rico Dowdle or somebody like that. Truthfully,
I already had Tootin at 25.
Yeah, and I've got Tootin in the 30s, and he would be in this tier for me as well, like in the 25 to 29 range for me. Allgeier, though, like I probably am going to leave him right where I have him at 24. Where do you have Allgeier? Because
26, I've got him right there with Swift and Monungai and Tootin. And just behind Harvey and Henry.
Okay, so that's exactly where I have him.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's identical. All right, yeah. So I already had him there. It was kind of baked into his price in my rankings, at least, that he was going to go somewhere and probably get more volume. It might have been already baked into his dynasty price, so we'll see. Maybe you were buying Tyler Allgeier and he didn't actually, but he was a good buy like in December, in November. That's when he was a really good buy, and if you bought him, then it definitely did pay off. But stays in the upside shot category. We like it for Tyler Allgeier. It's a good situation for him.
Yeah, and then Michael Pittman, again, we already mentioned him getting moved because of this Alec Pierce deal. I think we all knew that it was going to be Alec Pierce or it was going to be Michael Pittman, because Michael Pittman's who was going to stay with the Colts, because Pittman's cap hit this year was like just under $30 million. And I think what ended up happening here is Pittsburgh had a need at wide receiver. They needed a short to intermediate threat to pair with DK Metcalf. And they got pretty much the perfect pairing to go with DK, and that is Michael Pittman, who's probably going to get a majority of the, in my opinion, I think he's going to get a lot of the receiving work there and a lot of the target volume. I think he'll out-target DK Metcalf next year. They'll have an actual wide receiver that they can consistently rely on there in the short to intermediate game like they did not have last season. That's why Kenneth Gainwell ended up being their lead receiver, which is still crazy to me that he was the lead receiver option. But with Pitty now in an offense that's run by Mike McCarthy, and maybe Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback there, maybe it's somebody else, maybe it's Ty Simpson, maybe it's Will Howard, I don't really know. And quite frankly, I don't really care. I care that this is Mike McCarthy running the offense, and he's smart enough to get the ball to his best playmakers. And Michael Pittman, for someone who has watched him for, what has it been now, 6 years for the Colts?
Yeah.
It's been a while. He's very, very capable with the ball in his hands. He's one of the most sure-handed wide receivers that you're going to see in the NFL. Incredibly reliable in the red zone. Great after the catch. He's not going to burn you. He's not going to have the low-end wide receiver one upside that I think a lot of people have hoped for in years past. But he's probably going to remain being a consistent wide receiver too, probably a low-end wide receiver too. And it's probably going to settle from a production perspective right around where Alec Pierce is. He's just a little bit older and his ceiling is a little bit lower as well. So with Pittman, I don't think his category changes. I don't think my ranking of Pittman changes at all. My opinion of him from a production perspective and what he gives you really does not change. He goes from a productive vet to a productive vet. He's the same for me. I view him the exact same. And again, this is not a Mike Tomlin offense where they're not going to pass the ball. This is a Mike McCarthy offense, and I think it's going to be pretty good for him.
Yeah, I think it will too, and he's a good locker room ad for them. Okay, a couple guys here I want to touch on just both together real quick. I'm assuming Tua goes to the Falcons. Tua's a nice little asset tone in Superflex leagues if you have him already. Like his value is pretty much in the dirt. He's going to start there. Michael Penix will not be healthy for the start of the season.
Which, by the way,
we'll see what he can do.
Give Atlanta a little bit of a break for signing Tua, because it's not like they're like, oh, we got our guy, we're going to take a shot on Tua Tagovailoa. He's
nothing.
League minimum.
Yeah,
literally league minimum, because Miami owes him $99 million. Like, no one has to pay anything to add Tua, so you may as well take the shot.
And the other one I want to talk about is Kyler Murray. Evidently, it's the worst kept secret in the league that he's going to go to Minnesota. Maybe by the time we and I would not be surprised if by the time we release this video he's already signed there, or maybe he signed somewhere else. I don't know. Assuming he does go to Minnesota, it's going to be.
I mean, who else is he going to want to sign with?
I don't know. And assuming he goes to Minnesota, look, that you are talking, that is best case scenario for Jefferson. It is best case scenario for somebody even like Jordan Addison. And honestly, it's very good for Kyler. Like, it's a very
great
good
for
landing
Kyler.
spot for Kyler. We're going to see what Kevin O'Connell's made of right now. He's the quarterback whisperer. Try whispering to the guy who's wearing a headset because he's playing Call of Duty all the time. We'll see what happens with Kyler Murray. But both those guys we wanted to talk about because they're obviously big in terms of their category analysis if they do. Tua stays a serviceable guy. Kyler goes from an upside shot to probably a productive vet at this point in his career. And so nothing huge there, although it would really help. It's going to really help the Vikings' weapons in terms of the Falcons, like for Drake London and Tua throwing him the ball. I think it's good for London. Like, I don't think it's bad by any means. I don't think it's like, oh, this is amazing. I don't think it's like, oh, this is amazing for Pitts. But I think they'll both be productive with Tua. And so we'll see. I don't know. And, it's a brand new offense, brand new system with Stefanski there. And so that all could be good. I don't know. But I think that these two quarterbacks are guys that you should have them as cheap quarterback threes on your roster in Dynasty. I think they're pretty solid. So.
Then we got Isaiah Likely going to the Giants. I think this could be incredible for his legacy. I think you're talking about a guy that's going from a Jag Insurance level player, a guy that never really produces, to a true cornerstone that's probably going to be drafted in the top 2 rounds of your dynasty drafts from here on out.
You cannot help yourself.
No, I can't help myself. He signs a 3-year, $40 million deal, which is classic for tight ends that are irrelevant from a fantasy perspective, but he'll offer something there. He's literally following John Harbaugh and Greg Roman. We've seen this offense before. Why do people act like this is anything different than what we've seen for the first 4 years of Isaiah Likely's career?
You're going to love this name.
He is nothing.
I put out a tweet earlier, and people aren't realizing it. It's sarcasm. And I said it's going to be interesting to see if John Harbaugh can unlock Isaiah Likely. Harbaugh and Roman offense may be the perfect combination for him. Hard to know for sure.
Of course, yeah.
And I don't think people know that I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So
look. No, we don't really care. Isaiah Likely is staying the same for us. Kenneth Gainwell goes to the Bucs.
Yeah.
Yes, second best Kenneth. Gainwell was sneaky productive last year. He was a very serviceable guy, a guy that you could plug and play towards the end of the year, which was great for him. He ended up kind of settling back to Jag Insurance because we didn't know what situation he was going to end up in. He's back up to a serviceable guy that I do think is more than just an insurance play behind Bucky Irving. I think Kenneth Gainwell and his potential usage even in the red zone could get him to be a guy that's like very respectable from a production perspective, and he's not going to do anything like insane for you. But for a guy that's going to play second fiddle to Bucky Irving, he still is probably going to get a good amount of work there. 2 years, $14 million, guys. You're talking about more value than Tyler Allgeier, who everyone in the market is very high on, admittedly so, and as they should be. And he just got paid more than that. That was the going rate for Tyler Allgeier, who we expect to get a lot of usage in Arizona, with James Conner being, coming off that injury and Benson probably being irrelevant. And Gainwell's getting paid more as a running back too. He's probably going to get some work alongside Bucky Irving, so don't sleep on him. J.K. Dobbins, this literally broke while we were doing this video, just re-signed on a 2-year deal with Denver. So again, as we feared with RJ Harvey, we figured that something like this might happen, whether it was Dobbins or whether it was somebody else in free agency. They were going to get somebody on one of those like middling running back deals where they're just going to pair him with Harvey for the entire year or the next 2 years, and they're going to be 1A and 1B. And Harvey is never going to get a ridiculous amount of usage in the backfield on the ground for him to really, in my opinion, raise his upside and really raise his floor. So that's kind of a stinker on Harvey, honestly, but for Dobbins, it moves him from Jag Insurance to serviceable. Again, he's a guy that you can really look at flexing every single week when he's starting and when he's healthy. So he was very, he was more than flexible last year. For the first half of the season, he was in RB1. Yeah. So, good stuff.
I think when you're looking at RJ Harvey's, now that Denver's kind of solidified what they think he is. I think when you're looking at his dynasty value, like he's sandwiched between like a guy like Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry.
I'd rather take the short-term league winners.
Like why not?
I'd rather take Adams,
like
Evans,
Harvey, in my opinion,
Pierce.
is an absolute dynasty dead zone asset.
I think he's a big sell now.
Yeah, I don't. And actually, his market value in our last couple drafts has been plummeting. Yeah. He went in the 8th of our last dynasty startup we did on the channel, and so that honestly may mean he's not a sell. It might be a hold at that price. Obviously, it just depends. And now this is definitely not going to help him at all. And so a couple guys that haven't signed yet that we're looking forward to, and we'll obviously make more videos this week to kind of cover some of these guys when they do go. Romeo Doubs, Stephon Diggs, Juwan Jennings, Brandon Ayuk, Rashid Shaheed, Rico Dowdle, and Rashad White. Those last two running backs especially are going to get some pretty decent deals. I think Rico's going to go somewhere and get a pretty decent contract. And then will A.J. Brown get traded? Probably not, but it's still possible. BTJ, there were trade talks about him. Probably not. Still possible. All of that and more is what we're still looking for in free agency. But do us a huge favor. If you enjoyed this this video, drop a like. Make sure you're subscribed. Obviously, information is coming out every 5 seconds. And so if there's something we are not up to date on this video, it's because we're recording it to put it out as soon as we possibly can. There's going to be new information that comes out. We just can't catch everything. But we're having the time of our lives with free agency, and I'm sure you are too. Again, come join the community. We're all hanging out, talking free agency. We can take a look at your team and do a team blueprint for you. You can get over to our Discord community, and you can also get in a league now that our leagues are going to be real fun now that we've had this free agency. So go check it out. The link in the pinned comment. Appreciate you guys. We'll see you soon.